Got all my notes in front of me. You got your own microphone. You're wearing the headphones this week. How does it sound okay?
Yep, sounds pretty good.
All right, episode number 5. And we're coming down in 3, 2, 1. Hi, and welcome to episode number 5 of Conversations with Myself.
A journey of self-discovery.
You got to say that louder, because like I listen to it in my car, and I'm like, I can't hear what he's saying. What's he saying?
A journey of self-discovery. Oh, man.
Now, look, you're overmodulating there, son.
I'm sorry.
I got to turn down the levels a little bit. Hello and welcome into episode 5. I'm Brent, and with me, as always, is the kid with the Bieber-esque haircut. He keeps doing this thing with his hair. He looks like Justin Bieber all the time. It's Xavier. Say hi, Xavier.
Hi, Xavier.
So you do that every week. That's like your trademark, isn't it?
Hi, Xavier.
So at the end of last week's episode, we mentioned that we'd probably make music our topic of discussion today. And much like movies, as we said before, I'm sure music will be a topic that we touch on multiple times, from different aspects. Like with movies, we kind of generally talked about movies a couple of episodes ago, and then we might get into more specifics on future podcast episodes.
Yeah.
And we'll do the same thing with music. And today, that's kind of what we're doing, because on Saturday, what did we do?
On Saturday, we went to my first concert.
And who did you see?
Jason Isbell and... Oh, I forget her name. What's your name?
Sheryl Crow.
Like I said, Sheryl Crow.
Yeah, so we went up to Beaver Dam, Kentucky, Beaver Dam Amphitheater. Saw Jason Isbell and Sheryl Crow for what it was, I guess, your first big concerts.
Yeah.
And I thought it'd be interesting to kind of get your review of the concerts, what you liked or what you didn't like about the concert, and your overall 12-year-old perspective on the experience. What do you think?
Sounds good.
All right. So, and then as we go along the way, I'll tell you a little bit about some of my first concert experiences, and we can kind of compare notes on our experiences as going to concerts as preteens.
Hey.
Remember, Xavier, we're trying to do a lesson in talking in the microphone. He's not absolutely great at that.
It's true.
So you actually, while we were watching the concert on Saturday, you asked me some really good questions during the show, and I want you to go over those and ask those to me again, and I'll give you the answers. And along with that, I want you to ask me anything else that popped up in your head. But before we get into your questions, I thought I'd start with some of my questions.
Okay.
And kind of give you some time to think and answer some. So when I was 12 years old, music was a huge part of my life. I was listening to bands like Guns N' Roses and Poison, along with a lot of other stuff my parents listened to. My parents like, the classic rock, like Bad Company and Led Zeppelin. Bands, yeah, exactly. Bands you probably have no idea who they are, which I apologize. I apologize to folks listening that my son doesn't know who Bad Company and Led Zeppelin is. But that's who I was listening to when I was your age.
What if they watch this podcast?
If they're watching on YouTube, I apologize as well. You should know who these people are, and you don't, so I apologize.
It's his fault, not mine.
Music doesn't seem to be as big a deal in your life as it was for me at your age. Is that kind of a fair assessment?
You're not wrong, but also you are not correct.
How so?
Like it's nowhere near as big as it is for you. Because I don't listen to a lot of people. I usually just listen to songs. I don't really find a person I like. If you get,
is it because that you haven't actively listened to a lot of music, or is it just that you just don't care for it?
Probably because I haven't listened to it. Because I like to listen to a lot of music, but I just don't really like to listen to a lot of creators. You know what I mean? And
to be honest with you, at my age, when I was 12. I had a lot less things to occupy my time than, I had Nintendo like you do, but you have a lot more choices. Like you've got YouTube and all these other things that you can find. So music was a big part of my life because a lot of my choices were limited and I kind of flocked to that. But you've got tons of choices of things that you can kind of grasp onto, right?
Yeah.
And so a couple of months ago, your mom and I decided to buy some tickets to the concert for this past Saturday. We didn't really ask you if you wanted to go, did we?
I don't really remember.
I'll tell you the answer. No, we just said we're going and we're taking Xavier with us because Jason Isbell is like one of my favorite artists, and I wanted you, whether you knew him or liked him, I wanted you to experience it and at least
tell the audience the special thing about Jason Isbell.
We'll tell that a little bit later in the episode because that's a pretty cool story, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we didn't really get your input on going to the concert. What was what's your initial thoughts when we told you that, hey, we're going to take you to a concert? You're going to have to sit outside on a Saturday night. You're going to listen to Sheryl Crow and Jason Isbell. What were your initial thoughts when we told you that?
Well, one, you didn't really tell me we were going to be outside. I thought we were going to be in the Ryman.
Oh, so you think every concert's in the Ryman because you went one time?
Yes.
It's not. So we were in a little...
I think I know why I thought that.
Why?
Like, I overheard, like, you or Mom talk about the Ryman and seeing Jason Isbell or something like that, and now I know why, because you guys are going to go see it in October.
Yeah, so we've seen Jason Isbell 2 or 3 times in the Ryman, and we're going back in October to see him again. So we've seen him at the Ryman quite a bit. So I guess that makes sense. But this was like a 5,000 seat amphitheater in the middle of nowhere in Kentucky. So
yeah.
So like when we told you that, were you indifferent? Did you care?
I kind of just went along with it because like I knew that it would make you guys super happy if I came along with you. So didn't protest. And also when I thought of that, I was like, well, they've seen about 3,000 movies, not even including Cars 1, 2, or 3. We don't speak of Cars 2.
Yeah, and I've gone and I watched a lot of like Japanese animated cartoons.
That happened one time.
I got up on a Saturday morning and drove to Nashville and paid like $30 to see a Japanese animated movie. That was on the Disney Channel 2 weeks later. We saw it
it's funny because it's true.
So you kind of owed us this.
Yeah, I did kind of owe you this. Something tells me I'm not even.
So on the way to the concert on Saturday, as we were driving up, it was about a 2-hour drive, something like that. I made a playlist on Amazon Music of a bunch of Sheryl Crow and Jason Isbell songs. Did you like any of the songs that we played, or did you know any of the songs that we played?
I knew a couple. Like I would have to be listening to them right now to hear most of them. But there's one song on the playlist I will never forget.
Which is?
Pokemon. I said the first thing to come on my mind. Real Gone.
Real Gone. And that's the one that Sheryl Crow did on the Cars soundtrack.
Yeah, like I said, we've watched Cars 50 bajillion times.
I actually tweeted Sheryl Crow and I said, listen, my son's coming to his first concert. We've watched Cars 674 times. Please play Real Gone. And what happened?
Let's get to that later.
Okay. What do you want to talk about it later?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll talk about it in a little bit. So that's the song we wanted to hear, Real Gone.
Yeah.
So as we were driving up there, we had this playlist. Did it help to hear some of the songs as you were driving up once you got the concert? And otherwise, say it another way, did you recognize them when you were sitting down and listening to them?
I think that did help. Like, I'll be honest, I didn't get, not all the songs I gave my full attention to because I brought my Switch with me in the car. But listening to them, it did kind of help me, like, know some of the songs.
Now, on the way up there, you're playing your Switch, but I asked you, I said, listen, when we get into the concert, I want you to sit there for 2-3 hours and just with an open mind, listen. Don't bring your gaming systems. Don't bring your phone. Just sit there and listen. And I appreciate you did that. You sat there and you listened. You weren't always like super excited. I could tell you're getting tired towards the end of the night. But you sat there and listened.
Yeah, although I was checking my phone to see what time it was.
Yeah, I understand. Because you're like, how many more songs? And I'm like, I'm pretty sure there's like 2 left. So we talked about a minute ago. I know you wanted to hear Sheryl Crow's Real Gone from Car soundtrack. How disappointing was it when she didn't play it?
Well, let me just say something. Sheryl Crow, if you're listening, sleep with one eye open tonight.
Ooh, I'm going to send this to Sheryl Crow, and you know she's from around these parts, so she's from Kennett, Missouri, so she might come and find you, and she's got some kids your age, so maybe you could be friends, and we could be a part of Sheryl Crow's inner circle.
Yes.
Probably not. All right, so putting that disappointment aside when Sheryl Crow didn't play Real Gone, what did you think? Were you bored? Did anything stand out? Did you like the concert experience? Tell me, just give us a quick review of both Jason Isbell and Sheryl Crow. So Sheryl Crow played first, and then Jason Isbell came on next. So what are your thoughts?
It was a pretty good first concert. There's a good amount of there's some good songs, new songs, I think, right?
Yeah. Now you did get bored, right?
Yeah, I was kind of bored. I did, like, whenever I'm bored, I sometimes imagine things, but yeah, but it was a good concert overall. I give it a good Xavier approved 8 out of 10.
And I told you 8 out of 10. I wasn't expecting that high because I told you, I said, listen, if you like it, tell me you like it. If you don't, tell me you don't. I just want you to be honest. So if you liked it, great. But if you didn't, it's no.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
Well, I mean, that's it's not a glowing review, a recommendation, but that's, it's like maybe we planted the seed and you like to go see somebody you want to see someday. So during the show, I would lean over from time to time and I might give you some insight on some of the songs, or I'd say, hey, like in Cover Me Up, Jason Isbell talks about getting sober because he used to be a heavy drinker, and he sobered up. Whenever he says that line, I sobered up, the crowd applause. There's a great big applause for him. And I told you, listen to this when he says this line, the crowd's gonna clap. So did that help to get some insight on some of the songs as it went along, or was it you were like kind of like, Dad, stop?
Yeah, I like that because sometimes with the song I don't really understand it, like with the Cover Up one, and I probably wouldn't get that vampire one or whatever.
If We Were Vampires.
If We Were Vampires, yeah, like when you told me like it's because vampires live forever, then the lyrics started to make a little more sense.
Right. So when you hear a song like If We Were Vampires, it doesn't sound like a love song, but it actually is because what did I say?
Because vampires live forever.
So vampires live forever, so they don't have to be concerned about all those little small moments in life. You know what I'm saying? So if we were vampires, we wouldn't have to worry about our time running out, but we're not. We're human. We're mortal. So that's when you get some insight on the song, it kind of makes more sense. You might like it a little bit more. Yeah. All right. So I kind of said before, I know you don't actively listen to Jason Isbell and Sheryl Crow, so this concert may not have been at the top of your list, but do you think by going on Saturday, it might be more enjoyable if you were seeing somebody or some songs that you were more familiar with? Like if you went and you knew all the songs, would you like it more?
If I knew at least a little more than half of the songs, probably would have been a little more enjoyable.
Because like you saw your YouTube favorite Dan TDM at the Ryman, and you were pretty fired. Like he's not a musical act; he's like a YouTube guy, but he did play his guitar, and you were pretty fired up for that.
Yeah,
because that was something you were looking forward to.
Yeah, I even had one of the most proudest moments of my life.
What's that?
Starting a chant.
You did. You started a chant inside the Ryman, and you started, and everybody else kind of.
I'm pretty proud of myself.
Yeah.
If you went to the Ryman, I started that.
So, overall, the concert experience was fairly positive.
Yeah.
Is there anything like? Did you have any negative things you didn't like?
The only real negative is I think that you know what it's going to be.
What?
No Real Gone.
No Real Gone. And the weather cooperated. We sat down. It was hot because we had lawn suits. We as an amphitheater, so we thought we'll just buy lawn seats. We're not going to get anything real expensive. And sun went down and the weather was perfect, and you couldn't. And even at the end of the concert, Jason Isbell's daughter came out because her birthday was the next day, and the crowd sang "Happy Birthday" to her. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
And Sheryl Crow's son was actually her roadie. He would bring her guitars, and I'm like, that's what I want you to do. I want you to be my roadie for when I play. I want you to bring me guitars and tune up my guitar and things like. Uncle Jody wants you to do that a lot. He wants you to be a roadie. Is that something you'll consider? Maybe. All right. So
how much will I get back? Just kidding.
Before you get to your questions, we'll tell our Jason Isbell story. So when you were like a couple days old, I bought some guitar pick birth announcements. And if you're watching on YouTube or listening on the podcast, I'm going to put up a picture of what they look like on the YouTube video. So they're blue guitar picks, and it said Xavier Jack Henson and the day you were born, the time you're born, and your weight. And I got those made up. I think I got like 50 or 75, something like that. And I passed them out to family and friends as birth announcements. It's some kind of a cool way of having a birth announcement.
Yeah.
And so
I'll probably do that with my kid if I have kids.
That'd be awesome if you did that.
Yeah.
And so you were born in 2006. In 2009, your mom and I went to Nashville to see Jason Isbell perform at the Mercy Lounge. And there's actually there's a poster from that show right there, if you're watching on YouTube. And so before he performed that night, he was walking in he had his dinner in his hand. And I went up to him and I said, Jason, I just want to say thank you for the music. And I wanted to give you this. It's a guitar pick birth announcement of my son, Xavier. And he took it and he was just like, thanks for it. I appreciate it. And it was just kind of a moment in passing. I thought a musician, he'll take the pick and he'll forget about it, or he'll leave it in the green room at the Mercy Lounge. But 2.5 years later, in 2011, I was going through Twitter, and Jason Isbell tweeted out a picture of your pick. And it said, a couple of fans gave me this when their kid was born. I thought it was a good idea. And it's pretty cool to see Jason Isbell. After 2 years, he held on to your pick. So as he was playing Saturday night, I kept telling Xavier, that guy up there on stage has one of your guitar pick birth announcements. He's one of like 50 people in the world that has one of those. So that was kind of a cool moment.
Wonder if he still has it.
I don't know. He might. His daughter was born 4 years ago, so maybe he made some up for his daughter.
Yeah, I think that I wouldn't be surprised if he did, because like he did tweet, this is a good idea.
And we saw Blind Melon play, which is another one of my favorite bands. And I got to go up to Christopher Thorn, the guitar player for Blind Melon, and I gave him a Xavier birth pick announcement, and he looked at it and he said, "What a cool idea!" So two of my favorite artists, Jason Isbell and Christopher Thorn from Blind Melon, have Xavier Jack guitar picks. The only person that doesn't have it, and I met him, and I didn't give him a guitar pick, was Mike McCready. I don't know why I didn't. I got to meet Mike McCready, and I didn't think to give him one. Other than that,
well, I didn't know that you gave it to that one guy from Blind Melon.
Christopher Thorn, we saw him down in South Haven a couple of years ago, and we're going to see him. Your mommy and I are going to see him next month down in Arkansas. So
cool.
Maybe we'll give one to the rest of the guys in the band.
Nice.
All right, so those are my questions. It's good to get some insight from your perspective. Do you have any questions about the concert experience you want to ask me?
Yes, the first two is one that you know, but they probably want to know.
Okay.
Okay, so first off, why even go to a concert?
You asked me this question while we were sitting there on Saturday night, and I thought, for someone who's never gone to a concert before, this is a good question. And I said, it's a way for you to, songs you hear on a record, it's a way for you to go and watch the person actually perform the songs that you hear all the time. It's a really cool experience. You hear these songs, and then you actually get to see them, play them right in front of you. I'll never forget, it'll be 21 years on like Wednesday that I got to see my very first Pearl Jam concert. It was in Knoxville. There's the poster up there. Knoxville, 98. And I remember I'd listened to Pearl Jam at that point for like 6 or 7 years. And I walked in and I saw Eddie Vedder, and he started out with Long Road, and I got so emotionally tied into it. It was just like, I'm actually watching Pearl Jam perform some of my favorite songs. So that's one of the reasons to go. And another thing, it's just kind of a group experience. Other folks there that like the same music that you do. And
yeah, it's a
communal experience.
Yeah. Okay, that
is actually a really good question that you asked, and we talked about it on Saturday night.
And here's like a little part two to that. Here's part two to that question. So what? So I get that, but why couldn't you like listen to it when we were going over it there, in that thing I heard some it was from concert. Why not listen to that or watch them on YouTube?
Another good question that you asked me on Saturday, and so you're referring to like a live album that they put out, because Jason Isbell put out a live from the Ryman album that we were listening to on the way up there, or you said watch them on YouTube. So originally, of course, there was no YouTube, so you couldn't watch them. You wanted to go see that experience. Yeah. Now it's a little bit easier because there's somebody that you like and you want to see what they look like performing the song live, because it does sound different. If you see them live, it sounds different from a studio recording. It's just the experience. Like you probably can't see it, but I've got these posters up back here if you're watching on YouTube. I've got my concert tickets. I've got posters. Like we got a poster from Saturday night, and it's a cool experience to go and get to be a part of the folks putting the music out in front of you. And sometimes they do things differently. Sometimes they play cover songs. You don't know what you expect. Like when we go see Pearl Jam, we've seen Pearl Jam 14 times or 13 times. We've seen Jason Isbell 13 or 14. We've seen Jason Isbell about as many times, and I've never seen the same set list twice. It's always different. So it's always a different concert experience every time you go. So it's a good question.
Yeah, because I don't keep referring back to movies a lot, but a lot of the time when we really like a movie, we usually keep the tickets.
Right.
Or in Bolt's case, because that was my first movie.
Yeah, all of our movie experiences.
I even kept the 3D glasses.
We have the concert stubs or the movie stubs in like a jar, and I want to make a something like we do for my concert tickets. I want to make that because I think we've got all your movie ticket stubs. So it's kind of neat to hang on to it to say, hey, I was here. I got to see this movie or this concert. So that was an excellent question.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay.
And while we're waiting, I know you haven't asked me yet, but your first big concert was Jason Isbell and Sheryl Crow. You want to know what my first concert was?
Yeah, that's actually my next question.
Oh, I didn't realize that was your question. Well, go ask your question.
What was your first concert? Yeah.
Okay. So it was 1985, I want to say. I would have been 8 years old, so I was 4 years younger than you. and my mom and dad took me to Cobo Hall, or no, I take that back. It was Joe Louis Arena in Detroit, and we got to see Hall & Oates on the Big Bam Boom tour. I was a huge Hall & Oates fan. You probably have no idea who they are.
No idea who that is at all.
They are the #1 selling duo of all time. They had some great songs. They still do have great songs.
Pretty good.
And so I got to see them in 1985. I was so excited to see Hall & Oates. And then I remember my mom took, and this is something that I kept thinking about Saturday night. My mom took me to see Night Ranger with the Outfield opening up for him at Pine Knob in like 1987 or 1988. And I didn't know, I knew one Night Ranger song, Sister Christian, and I think I knew one Outfield song. And because I didn't know any of the songs, I was bored out of my mind. So my mom and her friend, they were up dancing, having a good time, and I was just like sitting in my chair bored. So that's why I kept thinking back. I'm like, I remember being 12 years old, not knowing the songs, and being bored out of my mind.
Yeah, well, my experience, it wasn't boring, but it wasn't amazing. I know that, what was the last song that Sheryl Crow sang?
I can't remember now.
Well, whatever.
Every day's a winding road.
I'll be honest, like, I'm sure that if I listened to it, it was a good song, but I was actually, like, I was still mad that wasn't Real Gone, that I was just, I didn't like that song.
And I think you'll go back, that's why I told you, I kind of leaned over to Xavier halfway through the show, and I kind of said, and this is something you may understand later, but I said, take a mental snapshot of this moment. You'll remember it 25 years from now, because like right now you might like, this is goofy, this is stupid. But 25 years from now, you might think back on it and think, wow, here I am with my parents. My parents were cool enough, yes, we are, to take him to a concert. So I wanted you to kind of get a little snapshot of that moment.
Yeah.
It was kind of a cool experience.
Fun fact, I actually took a
This is
picture
our
of it.
first fun fact of the podcast, because usually you have like 4 fun facts.
Yeah. I actually took a picture. Let's see if I can find it.
So you actually took an actual picture. I was telling you to take a mental snapshot. But look, you did, and you had 2 thumbs down, I think. That's what that is.
No, that was just 1 thumb down. Although I did take it.
Oh, yeah, you did take some pictures. So good.
See, if you're watching YouTube, then you can see it.
We'll put that up maybe I'll put that up on the video.
Okay.
So I understand what it was like, because I saw.
Yeah.
But now, looking back, I'm like, well, it's all about, like, my parents planted the seed of music when I was growing up. And then as I got older, I got to appreciate it more and more. Like, my dad let me listen to a song called Shooting Star by Bad Company. And I remember listening to it, and I was like, okay, it's, whatever. But then you start to listen to the lyrics, and it's a storytelling song, and then you get emotionally invested into it. And that's why I like Jason Isbell songs. Yeah. He's a good storyteller.
Okay, so what was your favorite concert?
Of all time?
And if it was, and I'm sure it's not, but if it was Saturday's one, then pick 2.
Well, Saturday's concert was special because you were there with your mom. It wasn't my favorite concert of all time, music-wise. I mean, I want to say when I saw Pearl Jam in Memphis in 2000, that's one of my favorite ones. Jason Isbell played at the Dixie in Huntington this past December. If I could have written the set list myself, it was that set list. It was that good. So those are some highlights for me. Like, I've seen Pearl Jam several times, and there's like 2 or 3 big shows that stand out.
Yeah. Okay. So I got one last question.
Okay. Shoot.
Any interesting stories from any concert, any music concert you've been to?
Man, that's a very good question, and I could probably answer this several times over. I'll give you the. I'll tell you about when I got to meet Mike McCready, because Mike McCready has Crohn's disease. I have Crohn's disease, and I started doing these pre-party fundraisers as a way to raise money for, the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation of America. And through those efforts, I got to go backstage in 2014 when they were in Memphis, and I got to meet Mike. And the cool part is Mike walked in. He was the most down-to-earth guy that I ever met. And we never talked about music. We never talked about Pearl Jam. We talked about Crohn's disease. I asked him how he was feeling, and I got to see a human aspect of Mike. And I got to give him a picture of us wearing our Mike McCready shirts, which was kind of cool. So Mike McCready has a picture.
That's hanging out in the living room, isn't it?
And he actually signed a picture of that for us, and we've got that picture. And it was just nice to, he's like a hero of mine. He inspired me to do a lot of things despite the condition that I have, because I saw him, he had Crohn's disease, and he was a huge rock star. So
would you ever want to see like one of your heroes again? Like one of your biggest heroes again?
I don't really, I try not to put a lot of people on high pedestals. Like, it was really neat to meet Mike just because he was an inspiring person to me.
Yeah.
Like, just because he inspired me to go on and do great things. So it's neat. At the end of the day, you know, rock stars are human. They poop too. So I appreciate you going Saturday night. It was a lot of fun. I'm glad we got to share that experience. I hope that you'll want to do it again sometime. If you don't, like I said last week, if music's not your thing, it's not your thing. I don't want to force that on you. But if you like it, I'd like to share that with you. And you know, there's some of the things that you like that I'm like, I just don't get it. Like Pokemon, like Minecraft, I don't get it. But I mean, I'll go to the movies with you.
Yeah, you'll go to the movies and see Minecraft, the movie that's coming out in 2020. I'm just kidding. I don't know when that's coming out.
But like I do a lot of stuff that you get into because I want to share the experience with you. Yeah. So I appreciate you going, at least having an open mind, and I had a lot of fun. So.
Can I tell you one of my favorite Jason Isbell songs that they played?
Yeah.
It wasn't because I liked the song a lot, but it was because I knew it. Anxiety. Yeah,
so it's funny. Jason Isbell came out and he said that it was his daughter's birthday tomorrow, and his daughter had requested this song. His daughter's turned 4, by the way.
Wait, she turned 4? Oh, I thought she turned 5.
She turned 4 yesterday. And so he said she requested this song, and he said, I don't know what this says about me as a parent. And then they started playing the song Anxiety. And then I look over, and then Xavier is singing Anxiety. And I'm like, how do you know that song? And I guess it just...
Do you want me to tell you how
you'd heard it so much, yeah.
So I don't remember how I know this song. Like, it was like... remember when we went to Michigan and we stayed at Lexi's house?
Yeah.
And remember when they had like that little concert?
Mm-hmm.
I remember one of the songs they played was Anxiety.
I don't think it was, but
no, like I don't.
Not you think one of the songs we played while we were up there?
Like I think so. Like didn't they have like something in their backyard?
They had a backyard concert, but they didn't. None of the musicians played that song.
I could have sworn they did.
I know they didn't. It's just you've heard it a lot because we played on the radio, and you sit in the back seat and play your games, and I'm sure you just pick up on the music. That's what happened with me because my parents used to take me everywhere, and I would ride in the back seat, and I heard Freedom Rock. My mother bought a 3-tape collection of Freedom Rock, and I heard 60s music all the way to Gatlinburg one summer. So, but I like all the songs on Freedom Rock now. So, anywho, that was our music episode about concerts. Thank you for being open and honest and give me your insights on that. Any thoughts on what our topic should be next week?
I don't know. Maybe what do you want it to be? I'll forewarn some of our listeners or watchers. We've got Cornfest coming up. It's going to be a busy month. So maybe we'll do something Cornfest oriented, or who knows? We'll come up with a topic. Play like musicals, maybe.
Okay, so like
maybe like plays, operas,
like theater.
Yeah, theater. That's
okay. Because I don't know much about musicals.
Yeah.
Maybe The Greatest Showman is about.
Oh, yeah. This is the greatest.
So thank you guys for watching along. Thank you guys for supporting the podcast. Again, if you want to watch us on YouTube, you can go to Xavier's YouTube channel. We'll put a link up on our. There's a link up on our iTunes page and our Spotify page. You can, if you want to download the podcast, iTunes, Google Play, Spotify. You can find us wherever you download your favorite podcast. Thank you guys for tuning in to episode 5 for Conversations with Myself.
A journey of self-discovery.
See, now you're doing that on purpose, aren't you? As we record this, it's Labor Day. So happy Labor Day to everybody.
Happy Labor Day. I'm wearing white tomorrow.
Like, you don't even know what that means. Nobody really knows what it means.
I think I know what it means.
I have no idea.
Do you want me to tell you what it means?
I'm afraid to ask, so no, I do not.
Good.
All right.
So you see.
All right. We'll see you guys for episode 6. Thanks for tuning in, and thanks for supporting the podcast. We'll talk to you next time. Say bye, Xavier.
Bye, Xavier.